Hi Queer Fam, it's Princess Jenny coming to you at the top of the episode with some super exciting announcements. We want to let you guys know about some awesome patron activities we're going to be having on our Discord server in April. Everybody knows we have a Patreon. We've been talking about it for a while. We've had some live watches and we're going to have another live watch, and we're also going to have our first live chat. These are all our Patreon activities. So first of all, for all of our $5 plus patrons, we're going to be having our next live watch on Friday, April 29th at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. We are going to be live watching the 1985 TV movie, The Secret of the Sword. This is the He-Man She-Ra crossover TV movie event that is the origin of the original She-Ra TV show. It's kitschy. It's campy. It's real gay in a subtle 1980s kind of way that isn't really that subtle, but we love to laugh and make fun of it and compare it to today, which there's really no comparison. It makes us enjoy the day and time that we are in even more, to look back and laugh and drink and all the fun things that we can do when we're together on our Discord. So that's Friday, April 29th. 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And then directly following that live watch, we will be having a live chat with all of our $10 plus patrons. We can talk about what we just saw. We can talk about anything we want. It's a total free-for-all. So if you are a $10 plus patron of ours as of Friday, April 29th, you can join us there. And it's going to be real fun. We hope to have lots of new faces with us then, because you guys, you are our queer fam, and we love to hang out with you. And patrons at every level are welcome in all of our Discord text chats. We have a ton of different text chats. We have a general chat. We have a fanfic chat. We have a not safe for work chat. We have a gamer corner. And we're open to suggestions for new text chats at any point. The gamer corner is a recent advent because people wanted it. So whatever the people want, the people shall have. You're our community and we adore you. So that's all coming up in April. And we hope to see you there. Stay gay. Do crime. We love you. Mwah. And without further ado, here comes Roll With It.
Hey folks, and welcome to Hey Adora, your queer D&D She-Ra podcast.
Woo-woo!
I'm Force Captain Meth, they, them.
And I am Princess Jenny, she, her.
And we are both super excited about this episode.
Yeah, we are.
We are. This week's episode is Roll With It. Roll With It was written by head writer Josie Campbell, storyboard by Jasmine Goggins, Angela Kim, and the Regent of Catrador, Mickey Quinn. It was directed by Jen Bennett, and it is the 4th episode of the 2nd season of She-Ra and the Princess of Power.
That's right. Arguably the most fun episode of the entire series.
It really is just pure geek joy.
Yeah, and like just silliness and little nuggets. Yep. Nuggets of fun trivia from different sources.
It's an episode written by people who absolutely adore D&D, who adore the genre of like the framing of pastiche.
Definitely.
Which is, I'm definitely going to talk about pastiche.
Please do.
And just in general, love anime. This is like a love letter to nerd culture.
Yes, very well put. And I have to say, I have zero background in D&D, have never played up until yesterday when we had our practice game for our upcoming D&D bonus app, which you guys are gonna flip your little rebellion lids for. It's gonna be so fun. But that was my first time ever being introduced to a game of D&D yesterday. So when I first saw this episode, the whole D&D thing went right over my head. I'm not embarrassed to admit it. I had no frame of reference. It didn't occur to me at all. Mm-hmm. Until after I had seen it a couple times, I was like, wait a minute. Especially with, like, Frost's character sheet, I was like, wait a minute, I think there's an external reference point here. But even without knowing that, I still had a fantastic romp.
It was.
So you don't have to have, there's no prerequisites necessary to enjoy this episode.
No, but.
Of course it doesn't hurt, yes.
Yeah, exactly. It's super fun. And I mean, that's the thing about postmodernism, too. Like, the fun thing about postmodernism is you can read the text in multiple layers.
Yes.
Jenny, you want to drop a really quick death of postmodernism?
So I didn't actually prepare anything, so I'm just going to give a very user-friendly, accessible definition rather than go in real deep and reference any big thinkers. I'm just going to give you a very accessible definition of postmodernism and semiotics in general. Semiotics is the study of signs and symbols and how we lay meaning upon them in a very basic way. I'm not talking about signs like, sacred signs that you find in a painting in a cave. I mean, like, you look at a table and you have a word in your head that is table. And you know that we all know that the word table is that thing, and that thing has a use that we all sit around it and put food and books on it. And that's what we use it for, and that's what it is. That is what we mean. It's very basic when we talk about signs and signifiers, and that is the study of semiotics. And that is the basis of postmodernism. Basically is that we understand that there is no such thing as objective reality, because even though we all know that we loosely agree that the word table means this object, we all come to understand that we can't possibly all agree in our own internal definitions of objects and symbols. We think we all agree, but we're really just projecting onto each other all of our own separate meanings. So that there is no such thing as an agreed upon shared reality, because there's no conditions under which we can really all know that we're agreeing to the same terms. We all have our own little bubbles of reality that we think are objective, quote unquote, but there really is no such thing as objective reality, because we are all processing reality through our own senses, our own eyes and ears and subconscious messaging. So we're all having our own internal experiences, and it can be very unmooring, destabilizing, and stressful when you first start to study it. People who study these things at the undergrad and graduate level can go through a lot of existential crises about it. But I personally don't find it that stressful. I find it somewhat comforting, because you understand that we're all in the same boat. Nobody's 100% right. We're all just doing our thing, and we're doing our best to float along, get along, agree with each other as best we can, but we can't ever really know for sure that we're all agreeing to the same concepts and signifiers.
Absolutely, which is an excellent kind of segue into the text and the metatext.
Yes.
So when I talk about metatextual, I mean the text, the understanding of the semiotics that go into a text. So just as you can read particular text in one way or the other, when something is metatextual, it is intentionally understood to be read in one way or another. This particular episode has a textual understanding, which is, you run through the plot and you see, oh, cool. So, they're trying to fight the Horde, and, Adora's having her, daily crisis, and they understand that they have to work together to all win in the end, which they do. But then there's the metatextual.
Spoilers, Meth.
Oh, shit.
They all win in the end?
I'm so sorry.
I wanted to wait and see if they were going to win in the end.
I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. Oh, no.
Well, it's okay. I guess we'll all somehow manage to find some joy.
Episode over.
Yes, episode over. Sorry, continue.
But the metatextual part of this is that you are understanding that the story is told in multiple ways if you understand the semiotics that they are bringing in from multiple different places, which really kind of segues really lovely into the concept of pastiche. So this episode is a pastiche, and Josie Campbell has actually done pastiche before in the way that she melded the Comedy of Manners and the teen movie in Princess Prom.
Perfect example.
So pastiche is a work of visual art, literature, theater, or music or architecture that imitates the style or character of a work of one or more artists. And unlike parody, it celebrates it. In this, we are using pastiche, cinematic understandings of pastiche, in the different sections that each member of the Princess Alliance is describing their plan. So we have the pastiche of the Magical Girl anime with Mermista. We have the pastiche of Attack on Titan with Perfuma's Plant Golem. We have the pastiche of the of Cowboy Bebop and film noir with Glimmer. So, and we also have the pastiche of Dungeons and Dragons. So this is a really lovely metatextual if you understand those symbols and you understand those things that are coming into it, then you will understand this episode on a different level. Not a deeper level, because that's a loaded statement, but a different level.
I think you could say that you understand it on a deeper level. What's so terrible about saying that? There's surface level, there's what's right on the surface,
right,
and then there's other meanings that are on a libidinal level that are not right on the surface. And if you are not versed in those particular areas, you might not have access to that understanding. It doesn't mean that you're dumb. It just means that you don't have a background in that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, you don't have a reference to it.
Yeah, like, for example, I'm not familiar with the Cowboy Bebop and the Titans thing that you mentioned.
The Titans and the Cowboy Bebop.
The Titans and the Cowboys! I'm not familiar with those, but clearly I can see that, like, these are different animation styles that are influenced from different traditions. Like, that I can see, and I can appreciate it, but I can't, I am not familiar with specific references, and so I can't appreciate it on the same level that someone who could say, for example, like, oh, that's a nod to this show, this episode from this genre in this year. Like, that's a specific reference that someone else might get, and that's fine.
I actually love the nod to, because that distinguishes it from influence. The nod to is essentially using all of the framing, including the cinematography, the lighting, the mise en scene, everything about it, to honor it, instead of pulling influence from it and digesting it and putting it out as something. For example, Horde Prime is influenced by megachurches and, the big evil empire thing.
Right, you could dissect all the influences that go into each one of these characters.
Exactly. Glimmer's Dream is almost direct symbols from Cowboy Bebop and from the genre of film noir, which we're going to talk about. So that is pastiche. Professor Smartbrain nugget in the beginning, because we need to understand what we're dealing with before we go into this episode.
Yes. To enjoy maximum fun.
Maximum fun and enjoyment.
From this juicy, multivalent text.
You need to understand the text in order to have fun. And, we highly believe that this is a multivalent text, so.
Yeah, I mean, the whole show is, but it's especially...
the entire show.
It's especially apparent here, and they're just having so much fun with it. And that's, like you said, it's a love letter to nerd culture. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, here's this fun thing we all like. Ha. Like, here's this other fun thing we all like. It's so intentional. Like you said, it's a nod to it. It's an homage. It's not just, we're going to take all these little bits we like and make our own buffet-style meal out of all these little bits and pieces. It's like, here's a sushi-style tapas, and here's a taco tapas. And, here's a dessert tapas, and these are all the things we like, and we're going to put them on the same rotating tray, but we're going to keep them distinct enough that they all retain their own flavor, and it's very clear.
I love that you're using tapas.
I had tapas yesterday.
Did you have tapas yesterday?
With my friends who I haven't seen in a while.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah. It's often much cheaper than everyone ordering a full meal.
That's true.
And then you get more variety, and who doesn't love variety?
I love variety.
Mm-hmm. So shall we get into this?
Let's get into it. All right. So outside a Horde outpost.
Yup.
So we have
the best friend squad sneakily sneaking around the outer edge of a turret, attempting to break into this outpost.
Yep. So we have so most of the time in this episode, when we go to kind of the battle sequences, we have Adora as She-Ra. We're going to distinguish between Adora and She-Ra in this. So.
Yeah, this is an episode where I noticed that too, that it's more of a distinction.
Which makes sense considering, what they're doing.
Of course.
So She-Ra is trying to get a plan together from the best friend squad.
Yeah, she lets us know expositionally that we need to find a way to recapture this outpost for the rebellion. And she is open to suggestions as to how to do that.
Yep. And so Bo is, Glimmer and Bo both mentioned here's their plans, and She-Ra brings up the first D&D nod, which is you have advantage in a sneak attack.
Right.
So right away, if you are familiar with the text, you understand that this is a nod to Dungeons and Dragons.
That's right. And I did not catch that before, but now that I have had my first D&D session, I am aware of that.
Where we had advantage in a sneak attack.
Yes. So there they are, and they both, of course, have their own thing that they're relying on. Glimmer says she'll teleport ahead and scout a path. Bo says he'll quietly shoot out the nearest turrets. And that brings us into our first weapons corner of the episode.
Yes!
It's an architectural weapons corner today for turrets. Because I'm sure we've all heard the word turrets, but I'm not sure we all know what it means. I wasn't really sure that I knew what it meant.
Jenny, I don't know what it means.
So, real quick, from the Wikipedias, in architecture, a turret is a small tower that projects vertically from the wall of a building, such as a medieval castle.
Okay.
Turrets were used to provide a projecting defensive position, allowing cover fire to the adjacent wall in the days of military fortification. And there's many sub-classifications of turrets, such as, for example, in this context, a gun turret is a mounting platform from which weapons can be fired that affords protection, visibility, and ability to turn and aim. So here's a few examples of different kinds of turrets. Castle turret, gun turret, tank turret, Victorian turret, which the latter usually is not armed, it's just decorative.
It's just decorative. I'm like, ooh, what are they going to shoot? Fancy things? I don't know.
So those are some basics for turrets. And so, of course, you see these on castles. It's like, on those outer walls that are just defending walls, you always see a little pointed castle point at the end, at the corner of each wall. Those are the turrets. And those are where you have your weapons cached often. And it's a good point that you can shoot from and have a lot of cover from return fire because you're behind this big stone or brick type tower.
Yay! That's awesome.
Yes. There will be another architectural weapons corner coming later.
Architectural weapons corner.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, it's a special day here at Heyador. We got a lot of unusual stuff going on.
We're learning a whole bunch of stuff today.
So Shira approves this basic bitch plan from the best friend squad, and they go to do it. Boom. But, Tiny Bo is blasted off the edge of the turret by a turret blast. This is Bo's first time going down. But I had a question that, it doesn't matter because it can't be answered. Why doesn't Glimmer just teleport down and rescue him and bring him back up? Because obviously she hasn't used that much of her magic yet.
Yeah, I don't know.
But it wouldn't be fun. That's the answer.
It wouldn't be fun. And it's also like so this is also our misdirect. For all we know, Bo's dead.
Right. This is the first scene. Bo goes down. Oh no, Bo!
And then she was like, he's dead.
He's dead! Gasp!
But then, of course, we cut to a really fucking fancy tent.
It's a war tent.
Yeah, but it's, like, beautiful. There's, like, drapery and, like, vaguely vaginal shapes.
Yeah, it's a bright moon tent.
I know, but it's beautiful, though.
It's beautiful.
Good for them.
Yes,
good for them.
Yes.
The tent architecture is
They may be refugees, but they're still going to be in style.
Exactly. So we have, we transition to our nearby rebellion tent, and this is definitely one of my favorite lines in the entire series. Tiny Bo's figure clatters to the table. Bo lifts his arms, and we have the next shot from above, looking at him in this very stereotypical, action movie thing. He's got tears streaming down his face. Both of his fists are up, and he says, "Tiny Bo, you will be avenged."
Yes.
And he does the slam on the table.
I know. And nobody else reacts that much. Shira is very deadpan. She's like, well, that plan's out.
Yep, that sucked. Let's go again.
Yeah, while Bo is next to her, like, having this massive moment with himself. And she's like, well, that won't work.
And if you're familiar with D&D, we have our kind of second nod to it, where you see that they're literally sitting at a battle table with a grid. And all of Adora's stuff is behind the little, trifold thing, which is where the DM does their thing.
Yeah. In the script to this episode, they referred to that as the strategy divider.
Ooh. I'm not sure if that's a... Anyway. So, we have credits. We're gonna win in the end, or do we? Don't want to spoil it. All right. This is where I want to talk about D&D, because I've been saying it a lot. And we're very big at defining our terms here.
Yes.
D&D is Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons is, on a very high level, a fantasy tabletop game, role-playing game, or an RPG, or a TTRPG as a tabletop RPG, because there are video game RPGs and all sorts of stuff.
True.
that was originally designed by Gary Gygax and Dave Arnson. So it was first published in 1974 by TSR, which is Tactical Studies Rules, and it is now published by Wizards of the Coast since 1997. They changed a whole bunch of, there's actually so much drama behind the actual business in the beginning of D&D, which is pretty wild. So, if you want to get into that, you can. At this point, it's been so absorbed in pop culture that there are D&D studies about like the history of it and everything. It's wild. So this is derived from miniature war games. Like there was a whole kind of proto RPG, TTRPG thing about war games. Kind of think of Risk.
Yeah, I mean, this, even coming from a background of having no background, it seems very obvious to me that this comes from they are trying to work out their battle strategy before going into battle. And so they have like a tabletop simulation of the actual conditions that they're going to be facing.
Right, which is how it's kind of framed in this episode, which we've already seen. So D&D is there are many other type of systems within the tabletop RPG, but D&D's publication, it's the first one. It is the seminal RPG.
The very first one.
The very first one.
The one that defines the genre.
It defines the genre. So, a tabletop game is a form of role-playing game, as I mentioned, where participants describe their characters' actions through speech, and then participants determine the action of their characters based on their characterization, and the actions based on the success or failure of a formal system. In D&D, it's you have a set of skills that you're good at and you're not good at, and then you roll a dice against them. So it has that randomized elements to it where you don't know what's going to happen. So it is more of a storytelling adventure. There is a question as to whether or not it fulfills the actual genre of game itself, or whether it's kind of outside its own thing. Because game is understood to have rules and a final objective, and once that's over, it's done. But tabletop games can go on infinitely.
Interesting.
Yeah. So.
That's right, because last night when we were doing our practice game, at a certain point we won the battle, and I was like, okay, we're done. And everyone else was like, no.
No, we're not done. We're not done. So because of the system and because of the way that it is designed, people have it says, I have my nice little definition here. Within the rules, players have freedoms to improvise, and the shape of their direction and outcome defines the game. So there are like multiple different aspects that go into the game. That's non-linear. It's an incredibly non-linear adventure. That is like the highest level description of Dungeons and Dragons. The original D&D kind of world. It's a fantasy world, a Western fantasy world. It is so heavily based on Tolkien's world that they literally got sued in the beginning because they were using the words Hobbit and Ent and Balrog. All of the races and classes are drawn from the Lord of the Rings. Halflings, which is hobbits, elves, half-elves, dwarves, orcs, rangers. It's all taken from Lord of the Rings. Well,
it makes sense why they got sued.
Yeah, exactly. Other things about it real quickly. The crew and the cast are big friggin', D&D nerds.
The crew too?
Yeah, they used to play. So one of the things is they did play, writers did play D&D together. They had like a D&D crew.
That's awesome.
Just a really quick aside from like a queer perspective, it is, kind of anecdotally, and also like even ND mentioned this, it is a place where a lot of queer and trans people are really first able to kind of explore an identity that they can feel comfortable then embracing.
Fuck yeah.
So like you can be whoever you want.
Fuck yeah.
D&D, wicked fucking queer. It's fun. Find a cool crew. Listen to some good podcasts, and listen to our podcast where we play as the Princess Alliance against the Horde.
That's right. We're gonna have a sick game for you in our next episode.
It's so fun.
Yes.
It's so fun.
Anyway, should we get into this episode? We went through some credits.
Yeah.
And now we're back. We see this opening shot that shows us where the rebellion camp is in relation to the Horde outpost. It's like basically just on the other side of some rocks.
Yep.
They're within visual range of each other, but I guess, they're as close as they can be without directly tussling.
Mm-hmm, yep.
So we go back inside the Rebel war tent. We've got the best friend squad sitting around, continuing to strategize the same little battle plan. Bo, very upset about the fact that he shouldn't be dead. He says that turret came out of nowhere, which we know now. We know about turrets. They don't move.
Thanks for telling us that, Jenny. I really appreciate your weapons corners.
No problem. I mean, I figure if I don't know, there's got to be at least a few other people out there who are in that boat with me.
I feel like that's a pretty solid assumption.
Adora gives us some more exposition about the whole battle situation. She says the pass is the only way in or out of this region. According to the reports, the Horde seized it while we were busy defending Bright Moon, so it's crucial that we get it back. And then Bo starts to really lay into his running gag for the episode of, why does it mean I have to die? And after I made these for you.
I know. I love that Bo hand-painted these.
Yes.
That's so cute.
Of course, he's the maker. He makes things that need to be made.
Yeah, and you obviously need your tabletop battle figures.
You need your war table battle figures.
Yeah, which
if you're gonna plan your battle on a table. But so, we have a lot of fun exposition set up in this first scene. Adora gives us the sort of emotional exposition of what's going to be gripping her throughout the episode when she says, our plans always fall apart. It would be impressive if it wasn't so terrifying. And then Glimmer says, but we have gotten really good at improvising though, right? So Glimmer feels okay about that. And Adora absolutely does not feel okay about that. She's super, super serious and wants them to take everything into account that the Horde could possibly throw at them, including surprise attacks.
Yep.
So I have a note here. I feel a real Dad Dora energy in the room right now.
Dad Dora.
And that could be very much a gayest moment. Here's Dad trying to prepare the family to beat that other family at the annual neighborhood capture the flag game. And the other family won last year and perhaps wins every year. And our dad has just been preparing all year because the other dad has been rubbing our dad's face in it every day. Even though it's supposed to be a fun recreational family event. So now our dad is just super, super serious. And we're all sitting around trying to prepare for this fun recreational event. And our dad just won't let us have fun. Dad Dora's guys, you have to take it seriously. If we prepared for anything the Mitchells could throw at us. Are we prepared?
Always prepare.
Yeah. And then we move on to Bo telling us that we're breaking Tiny Bo's heart. Even though he doesn't explain why. And we have the funny little shtick where Glimmer's he's smiling. And Bo says, through his pain, Glimmer. Through his pain. And that's when Adora gets back into being guys, this is serious. I twitch. And now I roll it onto you, Meph.
And this is where I have my first gayest moment. So we have the line from Adora, very serious business. Guys, this pass is important. The Horde's not going to give it up without a fight. It's obviously going to be guarded by their very best and brightest. We have Adora's eye twitching at very best and brightest.
Yes.
Definitely being ooh, Catra.
She's definitely not thinking of Scorpia.
Definitely not thinking of Scorpia.
When her eye is twitching.
Definitely thinking about stupid, sexy Catra.
Yeah, stupid, sexy Catra makes Adora's eye twitch.
So I have that as my first gayest.
That is a very gay moment. And then another pretty gay moment when we transition to Scorpia and I have in all caps, hello, you beautiful marshmallow of muscle.
Oh, Scorpia.
And then I really want to read Scorpia's opening lines.
Please do.
So we first see Scorpia enthusiastically standing atop the parapet, which we will define shortly, yelling instructions at random to the Horde troops. Move those big weapony things! Flap those banners! Keep doing whatever it is you're doing, guy I'm pointing at! Now do a different thing! And look sharp! Force captain's orders! So, it's almost just like the kind of text that you put in, when you're designing a website, and there's a Latin word that I can't quite remember right now.
Lorem ipsum.
Yeah, the text you put in when you don't know what the words are going to be, but you know there have to be words.
Yep.
I feel like that's what Scorpia's doing right now. She's words I should be saying when I'm in charge of a thing.
I love that, throughout the first season, it's implied that Scorpia went to Force Captain training. But this is telling us that she didn't absorb a damn thing at Force Captain training.
Just because she was there doesn't necessarily mean that she aced it.
Right. I feel like she got, the legacy pass on this one.
Yeah, I think you're right. And so the Horde troops are on the ground, frantically running around, panting, chaotically attempting to comply with all of Scorpia's conflicting orders. And it's a great opening to a scene just to set the tone of how things are going. You know, we have what the rebellion is imagining is happening behind the scenes at the Horde outpost. Now we cut to what is actually happening.
Yep, and that's a kind of a running trope throughout the entire episode too, is we have the rebellion, both the rebellion and the Horde being like, they're so tough, they're so much better than us, and they're both fucking messes.
Right, and this is a great example of semiotics.
It is a great example of semiotics.
How you interpolate, how you interpret and assign meaning to objects, and you assume that everyone else does also in the same way that you do, but they don't.
Also, I love the word interpolate.
I know, it's sexy.
It's a good one.
It's a sexy word.
Oh, I love it. I love portmanteaus.
I know. And you know who else we have in this episode who we adore?
I think I do. Is it Lonnie?
It's Lonnie and Kyle and Rogelio, all three of them, especially Lonnie, but we have some great Kyle, Lonnie, Rogelio screen time in this episode.
We do. Oh, we love Horde kids here at Hate.
And actually, this is a perfect, I have a bullet right here. This is where I have a little note that I feel like the three of them deserve their own best friend trio designation. We've got the best friend squad. We've got the Super Pal trio. Lonnie, Kyle, and Rogelio deserve their own designation, so I have taken the liberty of coming up with a few possibilities.
Okay.
See if you like any of them.
Okay.
We've got the Shenanery Trifecta. We've got the Badass Buddy Brigade. And the last one, I think might pique your interest, we've got the Powerhouse Polycule.
Oh, I do like that one.
Because I thought this might also be a good opportunity to talk about how ND made it canon that the three of them are a polycule.
I love this.
And of course, this is, you know, one of those extra textual debates because it was in a tweet, like many of ND's extra textual canonizing tweets we have come across. This is from May 20th, 2020. This is in response to a tweet that was deleted, and I didn't see it. But ND wrote, "Yeah, they're a thing. In my head, Lonnie's a part of it, though." So I'm assuming that was someone saying, hey, are Kyle and Rogelio a couple? Because there's plenty of hints dropped throughout the series that suggest that Kyle and Rogelio are a couple.
Yeah.
I just feel like Lonnie is positioned throughout the show as a very strong, queer female character. And you're right, I'm not trying to engage in bisexual erasure. I just feel like she's never given any opportunity to have any romantic pairing of any kind. And I would just love to see her have an uncomplicated queer lady relationship at some point. I feel like she deserves it. I feel like she's earned it. I feel like that's what's in her heart, or at least that's what's in my heart for her.
Jenny's head.
And I don't think I'm alone.
No, Jenny just wants Lonnie to settle down with
me, ideally.
With you. Yeah.
Sure.
And that's fair.
I'm just jealous.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know, what does Kyle have that I don't have? Come on.
That's true.
But they've gone through so much together. They're a little family.
Well, maybe Lonnie likes to yeet people. And
that's true.
And Kyle is imminently yeetable, and I'm not sure of your yeetability.
That's true.
You know.
Well, obviously there is room for a million interpretations, and I think that's by design.
But hey, you know, fuck yeah, polyrepresentation though.
Yeah, exactly. That's you know, that's the thing I come back to. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Is healthy, positive representations of polyamory are a very good thing.
We're all about that.
But she's such a supportive friend, soldier, coworker, however you want to call her relationship to Scorpia. She never belittles Scorpia. She never talks down to her. She never rags on her. She never says, I can't believe you're in charge. I should be in charge. She's very supportive of Scorpia.
I mean, she's snarky, but she's not a jerk.
She's not even that snarky. She's just like inwardly snarky, not even really to Scorpia's face.
Well, I mean, we have this line here. Scorpia, happy disbelief. Catcher left me in charge. Can you believe it? And Lonnie's like, nope, I really can't.
But that's like bare bones.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, she's like a little snarky, but she's a really good, like, number two, right? Like,
yes,
she's
exactly.
An excellent number two.
Exactly.
But then also, Scorpia takes that to mean, I know, me neither. Like,
and then, you know, what she can't believe is that Catra left her in charge.
I know.
And that transitions over to Scorpia saying, she must really trust me.
Uh-huh.
I can't let her down. And then, with more vocab words that she knows She might not know what they mean, but we're going to teach her. She yells, Kyle, man the parapet.
Ooh!
And Kyle,
yes,
confidently confused. I love that was how they described it in the script, because I agree that is exactly the tone that he's capturing right now. Kyle, confidently confused. I don't know what those are.
I love that.
Scorpia, then find out. And he runs away, panting at a brisk pace, while we all explain to everyone who's still here the definition of parapets for our second architectural weapons corner.
Hooray!
So basically, it's a retaining wall. It's what they're all standing on throughout the Horde parts of this episode. Like, at the top of the wall, it's not just a wall. There's, like, a walkway at the top of the wall. Mm-hmm. And there's, it's like a wall that has width in addition to height, so there's space. So I will read you again the Wikipedia definition. A parapet is a barrier that is an extension of the wall at the edge of a roof, terrace, balcony, walkway, or other structure. The word comes from the Italian parapetto. So there's two root words, parare, which means to cover, defend, and petto, which means chest or breast. So, again, makes sense.
Okay.
Parapets were originally used to defend buildings from military attack. But today, they are primarily used as guardrails to conceal rooftop equipment, reduce wind loads on the roof, and prevent the spread of fires.
Oh.
So many uses beyond the military pale.
Ooh, I love this.
And they actually even were referenced all the way back in the Bible.
The Bibbles, you say?
The Bibbles, in the Hebrew and Christian Bibbles, the Old Testament, in Deuteronomy 22:8. So Deuteronomy is the last book of the Hebrew Bible. So it's like, we've gotten through Genesis, Exodus, we've made the world, we've escaped the Egyptians, all the big picture stuff is done. Now we're giving all these little fine-tuning instructions, like how to build your house, how to plant your crops, how to do everything exactly in the correct biblical way. So this is a direct quote from the Bibbles. This is Deuteronomy 22:8, in English at least. When you build a new house, make a parapet around your roof, so that you may not bring the guilt of bloodshed on your house if someone falls from the roof.
Guilt of bloodshed is a sick name.
Construction safety.
Yeah.
Construction safety.
But I like that it's referred to as guilt of bloodshed.
I know, right? Parapets may be plain, embattled, perforated, or paneled, which are not necessarily mutually exclusive terms.
I like all those hard B's and P's.
I know,
it's a
right?
really
So
good microphone test.
What kind of parapet is this one? This one is a parapet fortification.
Ooh.
Known as a breastwork when temporary. So if this was a temporary structure, it would be a breastwork, which is a wall of stone, wood, or earth on the outer edge of a defensive wall or trench, which shelters the defenders.
I love it.
That's it. In medieval castles, they were often crenellated.
Oh, okay.
In later artillery forts, parapets tended to be higher and thicker. They could be provided with embrasures for the fort's guns to fire through, and a banquette or fire step so that defending infantry could shoot over the top. The top of the parapet often slopes towards the enemy to enable defenders to shoot downwards. This incline is called the superior talus.
These are some fucking sick names.
I know. So this really, especially for someone like me who does not have military strategy background or brain in any way, it's really painting a picture of all of these military advantages that the Horde has with this outpost, geographically and architecturally, as well as just what guns do you have and what guns do we have.
No, I love this. This is dope.
So that's it.
Thank you, Jenny.
You're very welcome.
But we have Kyle trying to figure out what they are. Jenny knows, but
Yes.
Jenny
so
can't
Kyle
talk to
has now run off, and Scorpia leans back against the very parapet that she doesn't know what it is, and moons over Catra. And here's another great gayest moment, which I'm sure you also have, Meph, so do you want to take it?
Oh, you can have it. I had the last one.
Okay. Scorpia, you're in charge of the fortress, she said. Even you can't mess this up, she said. Even me, with the huge sparkly anime eyes. She's thinking about me. Should I get her a thank you gift? What's her favorite color? Kyle, what are you doing?
And he's manning the parapets.
Yeah. Find out Catra's favorite color.
So, okay. I have a couple of ideas, right?
Yes.
So red, right? It looks good on her. She wears it all the time. But the idea that I have here is possibly the bluest blue of Adora's stupid eyes.
Oh, that's a good guess.
Thanks.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
She wouldn't admit it.
No.
But it would be in her heart.
Stupid, sexy Adora.
Stupid, sexy blue eyes.
Stupid, sexy blue eyes.
Yes. But I do agree that in terms of, like, her color, what looks good on her, it's definitely red.
Yeah.
So that's a real fun gayest moment. And then Scorpia is, real juiced up now on her own excitement about the sparkage that she is feeling with Catra, based on Catra's newfound trust in her, leaving her in charge of this outpost. She wraps her arms around Lonnie and Rogelio in an almost chokehold and continues to talk to them about Catra, her dream girl, her raison d'etre. There's, like, another gayest moment immediately on the heels of the first.
This is an incredibly gay moment. So Scorpia is continuing on trying to figure out what Catra likes. And it's like, you guys know Catra. What was she like? It needs to say something. It needs to be something that says, thank you, but also we are soulmates tied together by the beautiful threads of fate.
As she squeezes the life out of her friends until their eyes are popping out, she's, like, so overexcited. She doesn't even realize she's crushing them to death.
And Lonnie's like, okay, can we just talk about, less time talking about Catra and more time talking about our defenses. Like, can we just fucking do our job, please?
Yep. And Scorpia just, like, stares at her.
Yeah, huh?
With this blank, moony-eyed grin. This beautiful, like, Scorpia, even when she's not talking, delivers the perfect comedy gold. These long stretches of pause punctuated only by blinking. And Lonnie finally says, the reason we're here, to, like, snap her out of it. And then Scorpia laughs and pats Lonnie on the back so hard she's thrown into the opposite wall. And Scorpia has another great comedy line. Oh, you don't need to remind me. My wildcat is counting on me and I won't let her down. And then, she does the big majestic thing on the wrong side of the pass.
Yep.
For Catra, I will defend this pass with my very life.
And, of course, it's the wrong pass.
It's the wrong side. She puts her foot up on it. She's pointing out over in this majestic pose, but it's the wrong one. And again, Lonnie, very generous right now. Mm-hmm. She could have shamed Scorpia very easily and been like, dude, you're an idiot.
Right.
But she doesn't do that. She just does the cough thing.
Right.
She's like, wrong pass.
Yep. And that's awesome.
She gives Scorpia a chance to, like, figure it out and recover on her own.
Yep, yeah.
Which she does.
She
runs the other side of the wall. Yes, this is the pass I will defend with my very life. No reason to worry at all.
So then we go back to the rebel camp.
And we have a great scene change shot. We have the overhead shot of the actual Horde outpost.
Yep.
And then it transitions into an identical view of the game board, showing the exact same spot on the game board that we were just looking at in, like, the real life version of it.
I love it. Yeah. Once again, showing, like, the semi-auto conversation.
Yes.
So Adora's like, okay, that last one won't work. Let's try a different one. So that was Adora's plan, right? The first one we saw?
That was the beginning of Adora's plan.
Right.
Yes.
So now we're going into Glimmer's plan.
Yes, Glimmer grabs the strategist divider, tells her she's going about this all wrong. We're not going to win by sneaking. We got to take the action to them.
And
And I am not as well versed in all the actual genres that are influencing Glimmer's world, but I just wrote a two-tone world of punk rock, magenta, pink on black.
I love it. So this is my next Professor Smartbrain moment because this is something that I am pretty decently versed in.
Yes, let's hear it.
Glimmer, Professor Smartbrain mega moment here. So this is Glimmer's plan. Glimmer's plan, once again, is a pastiche, and it is a pastiche of a pastiche.
Nice.
So the first kind of direct influence on this is the 1998 Japanese neo-noir sci-fi anime Cowboy Bebop. So Cowboy Bebop ran for 26 episodes, or 6 sessions in 4 or 5 episodes each. That's set in the year 2770. And follows the lives of a traveling bounty hunter crew aboard a spaceship, the Bebop. It incorporates a wide variety of genres, so Cowboy Bebop within itself is an incredibly postmodern text. And it draws most heavily from science fiction, western, and noir films. So its most prominent themes are, remember this kids, existential ennui, loneliness, and the ability to escape one's past.
Nice.
So Glimmer's look, the hair,
which is fabulous.
The hair, kind of the open high collar, open jacket with the pop collar, and very, very specifically the initial shot, which is kind of like one of those like leaning, like
the gay leaning with the leg up,
with a toothpick in her mouth.
Yes, I made note of that too, and the fact that her face is in shadow
is a direct nod to the protagonist of Cowboy Bebop, whose name is Spike. Yeah, that's right.
I feel like that toothpick in the mouth thing is a very broad cultural type of like male,
which I would absolutely agree with if it wasn't for the fact that her hair is designed to look exactly like his. This is an iconic shot of him, and he always has a cigarette hanging out of his mouth.
Okay.
That is what is being referenced, because it is being referenced in the original text. So what I'm saying, nested postmodern, like nested meta. This is a meta. This is like, these are direct shots from that particular archetype of the antihero, which Spike is. Also, Spike is like apparently it's the ultimate antihero name, right?
It's not a bad choice.
It's not a bad choice. Who is referencing that particular archetype, which Glimmer is then referencing that particular character and that particular archetype using visual semiotics. It's so nested. It's so meta. So this is our Cowboy Bebop moment. Cowboy Bebop, as I mentioned before, is a neo-noir, which brings us, and that's what this is as well. So while this is, the Cowboy Bebop moment, it is also drawing for a lot of, symbolism from a couple of other places. The way that it is kind of in two shade, everything is kind of like shaded on the face, when we see like in half shadow, high contrast, that particular look, it comes from a stylistic, particular style that started in the 1940s and 50s, post-war, in Hollywood, called the film noir. So film noir and then neo-noir and all of these things that are derived from film noir is a cinematic term used to primarily describe stylish Hollywood 1950s and 60s or 40s and 50s crime dramas, particularly those that emphasize cynical attitudes and motivations. And there is, once again, that whole kind of cool, detached anti-hero figure.
Yes.
The 1940s and 50s are generally regarded as the classical period of film noir. So film noir in this era is associated with a low-key black and white visual style that has its roots in, you guessed it, German expressionist cinematography. Remember we talked about German expressionism?
Wow. Of course I do.
Look at the angles and the lighting in this. It is very reminiscent of film noir, which takes...
It's highly stylized.
It's highly stylized, and it also takes a lot, if you can see this, from very similar kind of angles and shadows from the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, which we took a lot of influence from in Promise.
But those were very overstated and, non-realistic. And this is just reductive in terms of color palette.
It's reductive in terms of color palette and angles. Look at the angles in this.
Yeah, but I'm not saying it's not so over, it's not like angles that are, obviously it's stylized, but I think it's a more subtle version of that.
Well, that's why it's an influence.
It's a much more subtle
right?
version.
German expressionist cinematography, and I'm drawing on a particular text.
And I'm not familiar with the Doctor of Caligari, so I can't speak to that directly.
Yeah, so it has its roots in it.
It's a very, very cool path you have drawn.
Thank you.
Very cool.
Thank you.
Very cool. And I just love that this is how she sees herself.
Yeah.
Like, like she sees herself, it's this very, on the one hand, it's like this very pink world, but she sees herself as the toughest and butchest thing in this very pink world.
Yep.
And I think that this also qualifies as a gayest moment.
Oh, yeah, I can
see
that.
How Glimmer sees herself in this world. Like, she's not, like, the ultimate butch character. But she's not, like, a high femme, pearls and heels type either. She wants to be, the punk badass. And so she kind of needs everyone to be a little, like, more femmy than she is in order to posit herself as the most butch thing in this pink world, which, as we will see later, her version of Catra is another super gay moment that, like, that's how she sees Catra, but this also, like, that's how she has to see Catra to make herself this version of herself in relation to Catra.
And these also, what you're mentioning, which is a fantastic little kind of nod into where I'm going with the type of protagonist that a film noir and the type of antagonist, which is a femme fatale, goes into.
That's true.
These are very particular archetypes within the genre. So the genre of film noir, the protagonist, some really big ones that we know of, The Big Sleep, Humphrey Bogart is the dude that pretty much made the, like, cool, snarky, like, you know, that sort of confidence. The Big Heat, The Setup, one that our listeners may be familiar with, I know, Jenny, you are, is Bound.
Oh, you know I am?
Yeah. Bound is a film noir pastiche about two queer women that run a heist on the mob. It's really sexy. But it has, so the protagonist in a film noir is usually this, like, you know, anti-hero type who, you know, is gritty, does what they can to get the job done. So we're going to pause this here because when we jump back into Glimmer's thing, which we're going to be knocked out of very soon, we are going to see another very important archetype and part of the genre.
Catra being the femme fatale, obviously, is the other part of that.
Is the other part of the genre. So we're going to go into that in a minute.
Right. All right. And also my other note, having no background in any of these real cultural influences, I wrote about Glimmer. She's got her own "Hey Ladies" gay smirk, complete with gleam in the eye. That was part of the gayest moment of how she sees herself.
Oh, yes. And I do have a couple of other things. The baddies, the yet unnamed...
How she sees everyone else.
The yet unnamed trio of Kyle, Rogelio, and Lonnie. Kyle has a really sick pompadour, a V-neck, leather jacket, and wallet chain. Kyle looks like your stereotypical bad boy greaser.
His pompadour's huge.
It's incredible. I love it. Rogelio is wearing Scorpia's armor.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
And Lonnie is probably the hottest that we will ever see Lonnie.
I mean, if you think eye patches are hot, which Glimmer definitely does.
I definitely do. So Lonnie's eye patch and turtleneck look is very Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., right? Like, old school Nick Fury. And also, like, the reboot Nick Fury. And she's wearing a waist cincher with it, like a very small, like, laced belt. And her hair is down, and...
Yeah, it all works. It all works.
Hey, Lonnie.
Hey, Lonnie.
So, and Glimmer has jumpsuit and thigh-high boots and fingerless gloves. Like, Glimmer looks awesome. She just sees herself as, like, the coolest motherfucker ever.
Yeah. Very cool plan based on reality.
Totally. Because she can, you know, backflip and front flip and boom and punch and teleport, and she ran out of teleports like 12 teleports ago.
And that's fun. Bo reminds her that she ran out of teleports, so she lands on him, and Tiny Bo goes down again.
No, Tiny
Bo.
So
that's our... I don't know if we're keeping track, but that's... What is that, our second time that Tiny Bo goes down?
Yep, that's number 2 for Tiny Bo.
Yes. And then back in the tent, Adora reestablishes the fact that they need a plan that's based on reality, and Glimmer jokingly says yes, and in that moment, I really would land on Bo.
Mm-hmm.
So then we go out of that scene, Adora takes back the strategy divider, and continues planning.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's like, okay, so Glimmer would teleport teleport him to the turret's blind spot. Bo will...
They try to be serious again for a minute.
And then a giant Mermista appears.
And then there's a seamless transition of the shot from giant Mermista rolling up on the imagined scene to actual Mermista walking into the actual tent saying, hey, why are you playing with dolls?
Which is another funny nod to dolls versus action figures.
Right. And Adora agitated saying, we're not playing with dolls.
Yep. Bo is like, they're war table battle figures.
Yeah, I don't have one for you. And, you know, Mermista wants in on the game. Mm-hmm. She switched wash duty with Perfuma. Bo doesn't have a figure for her. She's fine with being She-Ra. Adora's not fine with her being She-Ra. Glimmer gets annoyed, just grabs her and teleports her out of the tent. Bye.
I love that.
Rude.
I love that. And...
Very fun.
And then
we have like a 15-second blip over to the Horde outpost that's 50 feet away.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote, Lonnie gets a Google alert on her Horde tablet. She has a Google alert set up for princess proximity.
Yep, and boom, we have one.
And she says to one of the soldiers, "Alert Force Captain Scorpia, we've got a princess problem." And then we blip right back over to the rebel tent.
And we get back into Glimmer's plan.
Because Adora says she's still not taking the biggest factor into account. Catra!
Like, damn, Adora.
Catra.
Catra. She's behind every Horde plan. She led the attack on Bright Moon. She's devious. And Glimmer is like, I already thought of that.
Oh, she did.
And of course, so now we go back to Meph's Professor Smartbrain moment, and we talk more about film noir.
Yes, and this is another gayest moment for Glimmer, because come on.
Oh, yeah. So Glimmer imagines Catra in this high-ass...
Basically, she sees Catra as Jessica Rabbit.
Yeah, she sees Catra as a hard femme, right? Like,
yep.
So, boom, we cut to Catra, and she shows up once again in half shadow, walks in, sleeveless slink dress, fur stole, single pierced ear, or the ear is pierced multiple times. The lines on Catra's mask are softer. She has a slit up the side so you can see her leg, and is wearing kitten heels, which I think is hilarious that they put her in kitten heels. And the cat has a friggin' eye patch. She's holding a cat like a James Bond villain, right?
Yes.
So, Catra is a femme fatale. So, the femme fatale is the stock character of a mysterious, beautiful, and seductive woman who charms and ensnares, and a lot of the times it's lovers, often leading them into compromising, deadly traps. She is absolutely dressed as a femme fatale. Femme fatales both show up in film noirs, as I'd mentioned before, and as antagonists in James Bond films. Why do I keep bringing up James Bond, you ask? Catra explicitly references and quotes James Bond. So the setup here is Glimmer, do you expect us to sit here? And Catra says, no, princess, I expect you to die. And of course, no, I expect you to die. So that comes from the film Goldfinger, which is the first James Bond movie. By the way, the name of the one of the villains who, spoiler alert, does not, stops being a villain. Her name is Pussy Galore, by the way, just to let everybody know.
I've heard of that, but only from Rent.
Yeah. So she's Pussy Galore, and she's surrounded by her air crew of all-female pilots. She is coded to be queer until James Bond saves her with his magical penis of non-queerness. It's kind of gross, but I know. But Pussy Galore...
But that's a really cool character, though.
Pussy Galore is awesome, because she gets Pussy Galore.
Fuck yeah.
So this quote comes from a very kind of referenced scene, once again, a metatextual scene, where James Bond, and it's actually in another postmodern metatextual film, Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery, which within itself references another film called In Like Flint and The Man Called Flint, which are parodies from the 1960s. I am digressing because I know a lot about these genres. So, in this scene, James Bond is tied to a table. The impending laser of doom is creeping up the table towards his groin.
I knew you were going to say that.
James Bond says to Goldfinger, who's the bad guy here, do you expect me to talk? And Goldfinger says in a great blind delivery, no, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Tight.
So, referencing James Bond in a film noir reference, which contains a reference to Cowboy Bebop, which within itself is referencing film noir tropes. This is meta upon meta upon meta.
This is just a Russian nesting doll.
It's a nesting doll of meta.
Tasty.
Yeah, so some film noirs if you want to watch. Laura's a really cool one. It's about a detective who falls in love with a woman that is presumed to be dead, and while he's doing the investigation. The Big Sleep is a classic. Bound is a great neo-noir, has really super hot lady sex. If you want to watch a James Bond movie, that's an old one, watch Goldfinger. Content warning, it's misogynist as shit.
Yeah, I mean, the whole femme fatale thing, it's like, women can only be powerful characters if they use their feminine wiles as their power.
Right. And then there's also the conversation of the femme fatale, like, is it, but it is also a woman that has power, but it's a woman that has power that has to be, taken away. There's an entire conversation about the femme fatale.
Yeah. So, obviously, this is a genre from the 1940s and 50s.
Right. So
it's not woke.
It's not great, folks. But, there is something to be said about it, and
it's an influence. It's a cultural influence. So we get towards the end of Glimmer's scene. Glimmer's narrating the scene. Catra has a bomb. Glimmer is her greatest enemy, and She-Ra is standing in the corner looking so embarrassed. And that's like the best part is She-Ra's reactions.
She's like, "You see Catra like this?
This is how you see Catra."
Yeah, I love this.
And then suddenly Perfuma comes out of nowhere, declares, "I cast Flytrap on Catra." And then you see the next scene or shot is from the point of view of the Flytrap. Goes for Catra. She darts out of the way. And then each person just continues to dart out of the way until it gets to Bo, who does not dart out of the way, and he goes down again.
So that's Tiny Bo's number 3.
Yep. And, everyone else darted out of the way. So,
yeah.
I don't know. He's got no one else to blame.
Yeah, he's just rolling crap in this game. He's like, his rolls are terrible.
What are you going to do? So then we flip back to reality, back to the tent. And now Frost, Mr. and Perfuma have all arrived and want to join the game. It's not actually a game, but it totally is a game.
Yeah, it's a very serious planning session, but it's a game.
Yes, but Adora says, we're in the middle of a very serious planning session. Perfuma says, we have lots of ideas for plans. Glimmer says, aren't you on watch right now?
But seriously, no one is moving.
But Adora caves in and agrees that they can join only if they're super serious. Again, more of Dad Dora, okay, kids, I'm going to help you. I'm going to let you help. Only if you're really serious about beating the Mitchells this year, because we can't just stick around like last year and have fun.
Beating the Mitchells. I love that you named them the Mitchells.
Well, it's like whatever. The family next door, that their other dad is just a real dick to our dad.
Right, yeah.
He takes the game too seriously and makes our dad take the game too seriously, and we can't have fun now, and it's just going to be too serious when we're supposed to be having fun.
I love this so much. I love this
So
narrative.
they agree that they're going to be serious, but are they really? So now we have a cacophony of voices all happening at the same time, including Bo saying, what does that Flytrap normally eat? Frost is saying, I have amazing ideas, starting with, we punch them!
I mean, I like that idea.
Of course. And Mermista saying, basically, who wants to order a pizza?
Right, which is like a time-honored tradition in D&D.
Of
you eat
course.
your pizza, you drink your non-alcoholic beers.
Right.
That's what I do.
Of course. My next note is Adora's face equal opposite of gay smirk. I took a little screenshot so I could try to describe this, because it's like, it really is, it's like her gay smirk turned upside down. She's kind of woebegone, like she has lost control of the situation. Her little,
I love that.
Like, her little tiny smirk going up, but if you just flip it, so it's kind of just going down like, oh. Like, she's just, I'm not going to get anywhere with these guys. Yeah, reverse gay smirk. And then we flip back to the Horde outpost.
So, and then we have the Horde outpost, and Scorpia's talking to a spy bot like it's Alexa or Siri.
Oh my god, but it really is very cute. It's like a tiny version of the regular Horde bots. Mm-hmm. A little handheld little version.
I know. And she kind of... Scorpia just shows her whole fucking hand here. I need you to spy on the princesses so we can stop them and impress Catra so much she'll admit we're best friends, or, at the very least, we have a bond that can never be broken. Gayest moment.
Yep. And Lonnie and Rogelio are just standing there looking at each other, and they are both so over this.
They're like, it's not turned on.
And that's not how it works.
And another classic trope. Oh, yeah, good. Oh, I was testing you. I knew that. And
you passed. So,
kudos.
Yeah, and I have another great screenshot of a silent beat of Lonnie and Rogelio just sharing a look. Where they're just looking at each other, and they're both just like, dude. Like, are we going to do anything, or are we just going to let this go?
I think they're just like, you know what, fuck it. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
And this is Scorpia's first instance of absolutely not knowing how to spy whatsoever.
So let's go spy!
Let's go spy! All right, dude.
Yeah. So Lonnie helpfully clears her throat to remind Scorpia that she never actually turned on the spy bot. So she hands her the remote, turns it on, And then the little spy bot comes to life. It beeps in an unusually endearing way, I think. And it looks up at Scorpia with its little red eye hole. And Scorpia melts.
It's so cute.
Over this adorable baby spy bot. Aren't you the cutest little fella? Look at you with your little legs and your antenna.
I love it.
And then, Lonnie, spying. Yes, that is the thing that we are doing.
Mm-hmm. And Scorpia fumbles with the remote, and I just have, again, make things accessible for Scorpia.
I know. It's painful.
Yeah, it bums me out.
Like, why would you even think that this is the person who should work the tiny-ass remote?
Yeah, make a big fucking remote for Scorpia so she can do it.
Or let her delegate.
Yeah.
She's the force captain. She doesn't have to do everything herself.
Yeah.
Which is what ends up happening. But we have to have some physical comedy first with pincers.
Right.
Yes. Second test.
There we go.
Do you want me to drive the spy bot?
Yes, please.
Yes, please. That's a great pose for Scorpia. She's, again, not embarrassed.
Yeah.
No hemming and hawing. She just bows right over. Yes, please, take this stupid thing from me.
And so then we go back to battle table.
Which we see they've finally gotten set up for gaming again, which we know can take a while.
Mm-hmm. And so, it's true. And so Bo has, everybody has a figure except for Perfuma, who's using her plant, and Mermista, who has her own Sierra action figure.
She's a giant figurine of herself.
And Bo was like, who has that for some reason? Mermista, snarks back, says the guy with a bag of dolls. I love that she has her own action figure, and I think Seahawk made it for her.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, who else?
Yeah, exactly. Right? He's like, my dear and love, I made a doll of you. This is a model of my love for you, or something goofy like that.
Absolutely.
And Adora tries to start doing a plan, and Bo's like, nope, I'm done.
Yep.
I've died so many times. We're doing my plan, and there will be no deaths, no dying, just heroic good times.
And vintage 80s music from the original show. The honor of love, by the power above, I have the power, I have the power. So here we are in Bo's awesome 80s vintage She-Ra playground.
Yay! It's so fun. So Jenny and I watched the show, as you've heard many times before. We loved the show as a kid.
Yes, we did.
We jump right into here in our pastiche, though I feel this is more parody than pastiche.
Yes. And not before we see Bo looking extra bisexual with his OG Bo mustache.
I agree. This is definitely a most bisexual. Actually, I think that Glimmer's thing was definitely a bisexual moment, and this is the most bisexual moment in the series, maybe.
I mean, I don't like to think of them as being competitive with each other, but sure.
Yeah, I mean, we have gayest moment. Why not we have biased moment?
That's true.
So, here's another biased moment. Not biased, but biased.
Haha. Yes. I am Bo, She-Ra's best friend and defender of Etheria. And zoom in on on his mustache smile as he's saying this line. When the evil horde strikes, I strike back. And he's got a cape, and he's got a half of a shirt that's even less of a half a shirt than his usual half of a shirt.
Bo looks awesome.
It does look awesome. And then all the princesses appear behind him in their original, ridiculous but accurate 80s callback outfits.
Yep. And Perfuma's kind of happy.
Perfuma's the only one who's okay with it. She says, we
all
get hats.
And Mermista's pissed. And I think, is it Glimmer that picks up her outfit, looks at it ah.
Yeah, I didn't write down anyone's reactions other than Glimmer saying, Mermista saying ugh.
Yeah, but
they're all not happy except for Perfuma.
They all hate it. This is Perfuma's stoked because she gets a flower crown.
Yeah. And then Bo says he destroys the turrets with his trick arrows, and then I have a note, really? How are you going to destroy architecture with arrows, Bo? But I'll let it go. Because again,
trick arrows.
Even trick arrows.
I know.
You can explode a whole building with your trick arrows?
Yeah. As we've learned from Jenny's architectural weapons moment, these are fucking fortified. Yeah. These are stone.
I think that it's possible, as I learned in my first ever game of D&D yesterday, you can inflict some amount of damage with some of your attacks, but that doesn't mean it's going to be enough to take it out. I don't think Bo's arrows are going to be enough to take out all these turrets. But that's what he's envisioning.
That's what he's envisioning. Because Bo's died enough. Let Bo have his glory.
Yes. And then he says Glimmer transports them into the tower, and then we see Bo's version of Catra, and it's just so much 80s.
It's so 80s. It's got the 80s eyeshadow and hair.
Yep, the blue eyeshadow. And
sounds like a cat.
Mm-hmm. Fools, I won't let you destroy my perfect plan. And Shira, again, is just, like, embarrassed and just beside herself.
Like, what? And Glimmer thinks it's fucking hilarious.
Which it is. Glimmer is so amused. She's like, this is kind of amazing.
And then we have Bo doing more dad jokes.
Yep, and then I wrote time for the most painful dad pun battle of all time.
Oh, yeah.
Between Bo and Catra.
Looks like I've got you meowed, evildoer.
I'd pause to reflect on your upcoming death if I were a Mew.
I don't know. I'm feline pretty good right now.
And Adora is so embarrassed, she, like, has her hands over her face.
She's like, okay, oh my god, you gotta stop.
You gotta stop.
And Mermista is definitely, has, like...
Now we're all hoping this plan will kill us.
Yeah. Mermista hates puns.
Yes. And then Catra turns into a super cool Magic Panther, which is a callback to the 80s show.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, Frosta points out that in this show she can't actually do that.
Yeah.
Bo says she can now because it's the only battle figure he has available for her.
Oh, also, he ran out of robots, so the Horde has dragons.
Yes. And that could be another callback to the 80s show. There was a dragon in the 80s show called Sorrowful the Dragon. Aww. He was a cowardly dragon, so I'm not sure if this reference tracks.
Yeah.
They had to encourage him to stand up for himself and be a brave and courageous dragon. He's like an innocent, sweet kind of character.
Aww.
So that may or may not be a reference. Yeah.
We also learned the end of this season that the previous She-Ras did have dragons. So.
Oh yeah. But it's very clear in this moment that Bo has just run out of figures, and so because of the figures that he's using, he's extrapolating new powers for the Horde that they don't actually have in reality, which is not super helpful, even though it might be fun for the game.
Right. So we have Bo. He's like, don't worry, I will shoot the dragon with my net arrow. And
of course, we know what's going to happen.
Yep, bounces right off, puts Tiny Bo in a net.
It, like, comically ricochets off of everything 100 times before it lands on him.
Boing, 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 bonk.
Oh, come on!
And Adora's like, she would obviously duck. You can't underestimate Catra or the Horde. Catra. And then it's like, well, if we can exploit a weakness in the wall...
Except that now it's like, wait, Perfuma, isn't it my turn?
And Adora gets annoyed. This isn't a game! And then we have
Perfuma completely ignores her and says, I use my magic to grow a plant golem to take down the tower. And now we have the third installment of Weapons Corner in this episode, which is Weapons Corner Creature Feature.
Yes, I knew you were going to talk about the golem.
For the golem. So actually, it's pronounced golem. Which is different from Gollum, the little creepy dude in Lord of the Rings. Right. This creature is from Jewish mythology. It's called a golem. The Hebrew letters are Gimel, Lamed, Mem. And every word in Hebrew comes from a 3-letter root. And one of the cool things about that is that all of the words that come from the same root, you can sort of see how they're all connected. So the 3-letter root for the word golem, Gimel, Lamed, Mem, means raw material, which I think is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So the Wikipedia definition for golem is an animated anthropomorphic being in Jewish folklore which is entirely created from inanimate matter, usually clay or mud, but it can be anything. Mm-hmm. So anthropomorphic means an inanimate object that has been attributed to with human thoughts, feelings, existence, whatever.
Right.
So there was a great article, and this is something I do have a background in, but again, you want to distill this big cross-cultural concept into something small that we can digest quickly. So I found a great magazine article from a Jewish magazine called Moment Magazine. This is a non-religious, cultural American magazine from August 2017. There's an article called Jewish Word Golem, Mutable Monster by Marilyn Cooper. So I'm just going to throw a few quick quotes that are really going to sum it up quickly. The very first reference to a golem in Hebrew literature is the word galmi, and the ending I in Hebrew means mine, so it means my unformed mass. First appears in Psalms 139:16, in a later midrash about human creation, and midrash, again, is a Jewish word that talks about the ancient biblical interpretations of the Bible. So this is the ancient rabbi's interpretation. Adam is said to have been a golem himself, a body without a soul, until the 4th hour of his existence, when God breathed life into him.
That's awesome.
So a body without a soul is a golem.
Oh. Huh.
So, and there are many examples of this from throughout Jewish history. And of course, in contemporary literature, media, there's tons of examples that are not Jewish at all. There's plant golems, there's golems in TV and comic books and D&D and all kinds of contexts. But just as an early example, in the 13th century manuscript by Rabbi Eliezer of Worms, an early German Kabbalist, gives detailed instructions for how to create a golem. And by the end of the century, summoning golems was a common part of Kabbalistic practice. So,
that's dope.
Defend your village. Summon a golem. And in modern Hebrew and Yiddish slang, calling someone a golem basically is like saying they're a dumb lunk.
I love it.
Like you're just a big lump of clay with no brain and no soul.
I love that.
To be commanded by another. And I want to just give you one direct quote from this article that I feel like really captures it, and then we'll just move on.
Yep.
The golem is a highly mutable metaphor with seemingly limitless symbolism. It can be a victim or a villain, Jewish or non-Jewish, man or woman, or sometimes both. Over the centuries, it has been used to connote war, community, isolation, hope, and despair. So that's our golem.
I love it. And then I have a little Professor Smartbrain nugget of my own.
Great.
Perfuma's Golem is a nod to the anime Attack on Titan, which is a dark fantasy anime that premiered April 7th, 2013. It's set in a post-apocalyptic world where the remnants of humanity live behind walls protecting them from giant humanoid titans. Full disclosure, folks, I've only seen like 2 episodes. I didn't really absorb them. That's not to say that it's not great. It's a really, really popular anime, but I can't actually speak from expertise on this, only that I recognized the style and the function of the golem to rip down a wall is similar to the style of the Titans used in Attack on Titan, and the function of the Titan, which is kind of to it destroys these fortified cities.
Solid. And I love the fact that even though, it's a monster, like she is summoning a monster to do her bidding, but it's still covered in flowers.
I know.
Like it's 99.9% vines. She could have made the whole thing out of vines. It does not need the flowers. But she can't help putting in the flowers because it's fucking Perfuma.
I wonder if we're going to see a golem in our D&D campaign.
Oh, we definitely will.
I think we will, too.
There's no question in my mind that is going to happen.
No question that that's going to happen.
Yes. So we see the golem. Perfuma puts herself on top of the wall, and when we see her, move in a certain way, the golem just mirrors her movements. It lets out a giant roar of triumph. And then back in the tent in reality, Bo raises his hand to ask a question, and he asks a really unnecessarily literalist question. He says, if it's made of plants, how does it roar?
Which, everything else in this has been,
right, because everything else has been so realistic.
Right, like Bo's mustache.
I know. Then Perfuma just giggles and says, it's plant magic, right? It's magic. And I wrote, Bo, are you seriously nitpicking this after you put dragons in the Horde?
Yeah, no shit, right? Or, literally anything else that happens.
It's just, again, going to show, I think it's more to show Adora's frustration with how, as far as she's concerned, how far away from reality everyone's plans are. Although I don't know why everyone's so convinced that Perfuma couldn't make a plant golem if she wanted to.
Yeah, exactly.
She has shown herself to be extremely powerful with the plant magic.
Super fucking powerful.
So we'll see. We'll see what's going to happen.
We'll see.
But then Adora says, with another eye twitch, Perfuma, we're not just making up whatever we want.
It's like, you kind of are, though.
You kind of are. And then Mermista says, plus your idea's dumb.
Because Mermista and Perfuma are just like, they're friends, but they're definitely antagonists.
It's funny, like, they're antagonistic, but they're always together. Like, they always are the ones who are fighting together and have each other's backs.
Yeah.
And they have this delightful antagonism as well.
They really do. They have a great back and forth.
So that's a perfect segue for Perfuma to say, so what would you do? So let's see, what would Mermista do?
What Mermista would ride the wave of water above the wall and say, I am Mermista. Fabulous secrets were revealed to me the day I held aloft my trident and said, for the honor of gray whales. And then Mermista has a transformation sequence.
Yes, into Syrah.
Into Syrah. And once again, this I'm not going to go into because we've gone into this before, but this is a nod, once again, a pastiche of the magical girl transformation sequence, which we have every single time Adora transforms. This one in particular kind of reminds me of Sailor Mercury's from Sailor Moon, and that's all I'm going to get into that. But there we go. Another anime.
Her dolphin is a unicorn dolphin, and it rides on a rainbow wave.
Yeah, it's like kind of narwhal-y.
I thought that too, but it's not. Like, a narwhal actually has a different shaped head and face.
Yeah,
but of course, you know, sea mammal with a horn. You think narwhal.
And it's like sparkle, sparkle, dolphin sparkle. I get shoes that are slightly better than my normal shoes. There's probably another dolphin. And that this is a nice little meta thing. Where
it's fantastic, because she's just poking fun at all of the tiny little ridiculous things in the magical transformation.
Yep, and then I twirl my hair. Twirl my hair does this thing where it's like, looks all messy, but it's actually like really super beautiful. And I think that this is a nod. I thought this was a funny nod to both Adora, right? Who
of course.
Has, and beach waves.
Beach waves?
That's right. Beach waves! It's a thing! So for people with straight hair, it's relaxed, loose waves that resemble hair that has been naturally dried after swimming in the ocean.
Oh, I thought you were talking about actual waves of water on the beach.
No,
I was
hair. It's a hairstyle for people with straight hair. And it looks messy, but it's actually really super beautiful. And it's also kind of a cute little, like, just like we had kitten heels on Catra.
Right, of course.
We have beach waves.
An ocean-inspired hairdo. Fabulous.
Yeah. And Dora's like, you can't turn into She-Ra. And Mermista's like, no shit, I'm Syrah.
I'm Syrah, hello. And then Perfuma says, if Mermista gets to be Syrah, then she wants her plant golem. And then enter Frosta. The winter's bane needs no help from a plant.
The winter's bane.
And Adora's basically like, what?
Yeah.
What now?
What now?
And then we have this sick transition to Frosta's plan.
Which is so fucking metal.
Which, everything about Frosta's plan, like, she is just such a ridiculous little badass.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we see... Is there a specific genre influence that you had tapped on this?
So I didn't, however, I do have this. So I reached out to one of my legendary friends, and she gave me this awesome thing. So the Winter's Brain actually comes from an original character that ND came up with as a kid.
Oh, so that's adorable.
In a tweet from May 11th, 2019, ND said that Winter's Bane was based on an original character named Nightshade, who eventually turned into Nimona.
Oh, wow.
Which is the hero of ND's first big original work.
That's right, that they won their first Eisner for.
Yeah, it's super cool. And also, the armor is kind of a nod to, like, mech anime type of things. Like, mech anime is, like, big robot monster, big
it's just
robot
made of ice.
Armor.
Yeah.
Only it's made of ice. Yeah. And also, she has this, like, eyebrow scar.
Yep.
The slashed eyebrow.
The one closed eye and the eyebrow.
Yeah.
My enemies know me as Frostbite, Winter's Bane. My friends call me Bane. That is, if I had any. But no one comes close to the Winter's Bane! Like, and then you zoom out and you see this giant, awesome mecha ice suit that, like, tiny Frosta is just at the top of this huge suit that's, like, 20 times bigger than her body. With her badass eyebrow scar and her giant sword.
I love this.
And then explosion happens behind her. And it's like, badass, blah, blah, blah.
It's super epic.
Yep.
Super fucking epic.
And so then after the explosion happens behind her, that's just like a stylistic thing. Nothing, no action actually happens. It's all just stylistic. And then we switch back to reality into the tent, and we see that she has made her own character sheet for her Winter's Bane persona.
And she drew her character, and it's so cute.
It's adorable. She's got an obsidian broadsword that enhances strength +3, and her finishing move is the Snow Strike.
Which are both, like, you know, once again, another D&D nod, so.
Yes, enhancing strength +3, that's a specific gaming reference that even I picked up on. I was like, oh wait, that's something specific that's not just about, like, our battle plan. I don't think that's something you could use in a real battle. I'm going to enhance my strength +3 in this battle.
So we're at, so there's like a little tiny pink blob.
Yes, what's that?
Oh, that's Winter's Bane's sidekick, Glimmer.
What? Someone's not so thrilled with that.
Glimmer's pissed. Yeah. Adora's like super fucking frustrated.
Yeah, Adora's so stressed out that they're getting so far from the real plan. And I have another screenshot that I popped in here of Adora just looking so frustrated, teeth clenched, fingers clenched, just sort of standing over all of them like they're cats that she's trying to herd.
They need to fucking beat the Mitchells this year.
They need to work together as a team to beat these Mitchells.
Yeah.
You can't beat the Mitchells by everybody just going off crazy in their own direction, trying to have fun on their own.
Yeah, how dare we have fun at the company picnic?
Yes! The annual family Capture the Flag game is not about fun.
It's not about fun. It's about showing the Mitchells who's the best.
That's right. And they devolve into arguing. And the little Horde spybot creeps into the tent and starts transmitting back to the Horde gang as they devolve into arguing.
Yep, so they got that. They have visual, they're turning on the audio, and then Horde spybot sees all of these plans. My army of plant golems will take down the tower. Frostbite uses Snow Strike to encase the tower and then crack it apart. Pow!
Yeah. Everything.
Yeah, I love that Mermist is like, Syrah will use the Trident of Power, and Glimmer's pissed because there's no Trident of Power. And of course, Mermist is like, make me a Trident of Power bow.
Yep. Small obstacle.
It's fine. Yep. Everything's fine.
Yep. And so, Scorpia, Lonnie, and Rogelio are watching all of this, and Scorpia is horrified. We is doomed.
Whereas Lonnie's like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
This is who we're fighting.
Where they're just coming up with terrible ideas. None of this is real.
Yep, and Scorpia's like, they're gonna give us Frostbite and attack us with a plant golem and a woman named Syrah? And Bo's got a Trident of Power?
Who even knows what that is?
We're doomed! Yep. And we do this hilarious, zoom out where,
the dramatic music swells.
Yeah, Scorpia's all black except for just Scorpia, and she gets smaller and smaller as the camera zooms out, and it's just like ultimate isolation.
Yep. And Lonnie assures her that none of that was real. Scorpia is not willing to risk it, and so they start to wrestle for control of the Spybot remote. And so meanwhile, while they're doing that, and so that because of that, the Spybot is kind of just like walking around at random, kind of wonky, drunk Spybot. Go home, Spybot, you're drunk. And so while that's happening, Mermista spills her soda on the bot, and it dies dramatically.
Yeah, which...
Again, very cool. Fun little moment.
Soda ex machina.
Yep. And then back at the Horde outpost, so they've lost the signal, Scorpia says, no! And then Kyle, go grab one of the other spy bots he packed. And Kyle's like, was that my job?
Seriously, Kyle?
How many jobs do you have?
Right.
Not many.
You had one job, Kyle.
Yeah.
So there's just more Mishigas happening here, right?
Yeah. They've just totally devolved into arguing and everyone trying to win with their own idea. And Adora just shoots them all down and says they're not taking Catra into account.
Right.
And now we have a most delicious, gayest moment, which is an entire montage of Catras. The literal Catra.
The Catra. And I have this as my gayest moment. Of because course. It's just Adora being overwhelmed by stupid
all
sexy
of her
Catra.
ex's personas, basically.
Oh, God. Oh,
yes.
man.
Yes.
All right. Want to go through them one by one?
Yes, definitely. So we've got this scene of She-Ra standing in front of the Horde outpost as each version of Catra flocks around her. And we start with Perfuma's version of Catra, which is this adorable, frowny, cartoon kid Catra.
Yep, which is like Catra's inner child, right? Because that's such a Perfuma thing,
absolutely,
right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And she says, I have a lot of negative things to say, and I hate flowers.
And there's like...
She's like hands on her hips, and she's got adorable little tiny fanged frowny face.
Yep, and then we have Frostas, who is my favorite Catra.
Of course she is.
So Frosta's Catra I have as LA fuckboy Catra. So Catra slams in and puts her arm around Adora. And she's obviously Catra in a suit, right? With a glass of what is presumably wine in her hand and fucking aviators being like, I love ruining parties. And you can definitely hear like, babe, we gotta get out of this party. The scene's beat. I know like 6 other parties we can go to. Like, total fuckboy.
I just have her as Shane Catra.
Yeah, LA lesbian fuckboy Catra, a.k.a. Shane Catra.
And then we've got Glimmer's femme fatale, edgy pink Catra. I'm a monster!
Who is also doing the, like, kitty, like rubbing against
yes,
Adora
that's true.
in the front.
And
so
she's still holding her kitty.
And she's still holding her kitty. So femme fatale Catra is all up on Adora.
Yep.
And... so Glimmer and Frost's Catras are just all, like, draping on Adora.
That's true.
Rubbing
Both
on
of them
her,
are.
hanging off of her. Right?
And then here comes 80s Catra at last.
Yep.
And she just says, roar!
What a perfectly evil group. And so we have, Bo's Catra meows, Glimmer's Catra laughs, and She-Ra's like, worms out of them and yells, no! And I'm like, come on,
she
Catra.
yells, none of this is right!
It's like you have any issue being part of a Catra sandwich.
Oh.
Come on.
But that's the whole point, is she can't think clearly and do battle plans while she's in a Catra sandwich.
Would anyone be able to do that?
I don't think so, but especially not Adora.
So. Especially not Adora. Stupid, sexy Catra.
Stupid, sexy Catra.
So, we're going back to reality. Adora's like, none of this is right.
And giant collective groan.
Glimmer.
They're all done. Table.
They're all done with the game. They're bored. They want to go home.
They've been here for hours.
They're tired.
Yep. Glimmer wants to attack already, and Adora wants them to have a perfect plan. Like a perfect plan.
Because Adora is super doing the Adora thing.
That's right, because if she's not perfect,
then everyone's
gonna die.
Everyone's gonna die. And this is kind of, it's a really fun, goofy episode, but this is really the pathos of it. Too.
Yeah.
Like,
so
this is what's
exactly.
This is what's driving Adora's, annoyance.
Her
and
anxiety
throughout the entire episode. Her anxiety. Yeah. Well, we see it as annoyance, but like as it ramps up, we realize that this is anxiety.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. This is her anxiety expressing itself more and more intensely through the episode as the plans go more and more off the rails, and she feels more and more out of control.
Yep.
So we get the speech, Bo says, what's the worst that could happen? Mm-hmm. And then Adora paints a picture of exactly what that is.
Like, do you want to know the worst that could happen?
And, she gives a speech of how, everyone's going to die and it's going to be her fault.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then Glimmer reminds her that she, Glimmer, managed to fight when she lost her powers and was captured by the Horde, and they still managed to win. Mm-hmm. And then Glimmer gives us our titular line.
Yep.
AKA what we learned today.
Yep.
Bad things are going to happen. That's life. You can let it paralyze you, or you can roll with it. Figure out the things you can and trust that your friends have your back for the rest.
It's a really, really good lesson.
Yeah, this is a really deep takeaway for such a fun, zany, silly episode.
Yeah, I feel like that's a lesson that a lot of us need to learn over and over again.
Absolutely, and it's perfectly in line with our overarching theme and lesson of the whole series, which is power of friendship.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And Perfuma casts friendship and support on her next turn.
Very Perfuma move. And then everyone else jumps on board.
Everyone jumps on board. Mermista gives her regular trident, but calls it the Trident of Power.
Yep.
Since Bo is making me a new one.
Yep. And Frosta has a great line. She says, "The Winter's Bane stands with you. Also me, Frosta, stands with you." I can't tell if we're still in character or not.
I love that.
It's a great line.
I'm like, yep, we get it. We
get it. Yeah. So what are we going to do now?
Improvise.
We're going to do what we do best. We're going to improvise for the honor of Grayskull. Let's go.
Let's go.
So now we get to actually see them doing the thing for real.
Doing the thing. So we have the Horde. The Horde, Lonnie has said, okay, here's our plan, just in case. We added more bots to the weak points. Kyle is somewhere.
Yep, everybody's looking ready. The flags are flapping. The troops and the bots are atop the parapets. Yep, there's a bot on top of one of the machine gun cannon things. I'm not sure what it's going to do from there, but they have, they're flush with troops and bots.
Yep, so they got their plan.
Scorpia is still very worried about plant monsters, ice warriors, and Syrah.
Sure.
But Lonnie is not worried about any of that.
Lonnie's not worried because they really did the best they could.
And Lonnie also tells her none of that was real.
Yeah, and so we got this. And then Lonnie, we have another Hey Lonnie moment where Lonnie puts her arm behind her back and is blushing and just striking.
Scorpia says thank you to Lonnie.
Yeah.
And Lonnie blushes.
Yeah, and does the oh gosh, and you see Lonnie's hot. Anyway.
We almost never see Lonnie blush.
I know, I like this. I like this little Lonnie. There's some good Lonnie in this episode.
Yeah, there's some great Lonnie in this episode.
So, we love Lonnie.
Yes. And then Scorpia admits she doesn't know who Rogelio is, and that sweet moment passes.
And she's like the lizard guy.
Yeah. And Scorpia's like, oh yeah, I wondered what his deal was.
And I'm like, he's a lizard guy?
You've been talking to him throughout the entire episode.
Yeah, good job, Scorpia. Yeah. We still love you.
Yeah, Scorpia does the best she can. But boom, here it comes. Boom, it can't be. But it is. It's Perfuma riding majestically atop her giant freaking plant golem.
Which is awesome.
It is awesome, and Perfuma is not stressed out at all. This is not straining her magic. She's giggling.
She's so powerful.
And she's riding her golem, and she says, "For the She-Ra!"
I love how everything is I love the She-Ra.
That's Perfuma's thing, I feel like. She's the only one who really says that.
I know, it's great.
She loves it.
So, and then Scorpia, so then we have a fight. We have turrets blasting golems.
Yep.
We have ice magic. We have Frosta making ice armor and ice gauntlets and ice fists.
Yep, and when a piece of her ice armor gets knocked off, get Mermista supplying her with fresh water to make new ice.
Which is so...
Teamwork.
Great. It makes the dream work.
Of course.
And Mermista made her own She-Ra outfit.
Of course she did. Or maybe she had Seahawk make it for her.
Yeah.
Everybody's working together now. We see some split screen action where Bo's arrows take out some of these cannons that have just been electrified by Mermista's wave.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Everybody doing their things together to increase the maximum damage.
Yep, and we have this another 80s cartoon / reboot / anime / animation reference here, whereas we have the split screen of everybody shouting at the same time, and we have the boom, boom. So we have, the She-Ra, Mermista, Perfuma, and then we cut to Frosta, all these So that is a reference to Voltron.
Another show I've never seen.
Another show that Jenny has never seen. So the original Voltron was one of the more popular animes that was brought to America in the 80s, and it was actually, they took a couple of different animes and put them together. They edited them together and then sold them as Voltron here. The figures were really powerful here. The figures were really popular here. They were you would get these different kind of vehicle things, which were they're kind of like Transformers. And instead of them transforming into something, you put them all together and made one giant robot, which was super cool. So you have all of these people working together, piloting a giant robot that they built together. So we have that sort of,
Yeah, that makes sense.
That coming through. And the one I'm just going to really quickly high level focus on because it had a really strong fandom around it. Netflix rebooted Voltron. Netflix and DreamWorks, the same people, the same producers that rebooted She-Ra. So they rebooted Voltron as Voltron Legendary Defender, which premiered on June 10th, 2016. Joaquim Dos Santos was one of the showrunners who was also involved in Avatar: The Last Airbender. There was a lot of controversy around LGBTQ characters. There was a lot of criticism. While there were queer characters, there was a bury your gays moment that really pissed off a lot of people. I'm not going to get into that exactly, just that, this happened. It was another, reboot from DreamWorks and Netflix that did have LGBTQ characters that were a little bit problematic, and this is a reference to... Cool. It's a reference to Voltron. So anyway, and that's kind of the last American animation reference that we have in the episode. So.
The last, external, we're going to make a nod to something in this episode.
Sure.
Before we get to the end of let's just have, the final battle. So finally we have She-Ra running up to who she thinks is going to be Catra.
But it's Scorpia.
She says, "It's over, Catra, you've lost."
It's she was thinking about that the entire time. She's like, what am I going to say to Catra?
I know. Oh my God. Right? It took her days to think of just that. It's over, Catra, you've lost.
It's a good job.
Yeah, good job, Dora. Yeah, and there's Scorpia. Catra's not here, but I'm happy to take you down for her.
Yep.
Scorpia, even though, things in this battle have gone downhill quickly, she is still confident. She's now muscle woman to muscle woman. Her and She-Ra. She's still confident.
This is a good battle.
Yeah, and I wrote, Scorpia actually on the attack, looking confident and deadly, is hot.
Yeah.
So in the background, we have some general Rebel Horde fighting shenanigans.
Yep. We have some Kyle sucking at fighting. We have some Bo not dying.
Good job, Bo.
Good job, Bo. We have some Glimmer teleporting. You can tell that she's using a bunch of her magic.
Yep.
We go back to She-Ra and Scorpia. She-Ra's like, I can't, what?
Catra's really not here, and she left you in charge?
And Scorpia's like, why do people keep acting surprised about that?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, sweet baby Scorpia. But Scorpia's a badass. Scorpia
she
can fight.
Is. Of course. Fight. But just because she's a great fighter doesn't necessarily mean that she's the best strategic commander.
Absolutely.
And of course, again, we've established that she's a legacy force captain.
Absolutely. Yep. But she's got muscle and she's
a great fighter, no question.
Yep. And she's kicking some ass. Yeah. She knocks She-Ra's sword out of her hand into the river, which I am only assuming they're able to get later because we never actually see them get the sword back, but I don't know.
But it does appear again in the next episode.
But it appears again, so obviously they went and found it, yes. So, bully on them.
Glimmer tries to help, but then Scorpia ends up overpowering her and dangles her over the edge of the wall.
So Glimmer just swings at her.
And of course, Glimmer has, zero self-preservation in the situation.
Yep.
And Scorpia's like, hey, you don't hit the person dangling you over the edge.
Yep. And Glimmer's just doing, sparkle punches, right?
Yep. Glimmer does not stop. And then Scorpia is just trying to get out this one sentence. She's like, I was saying, Catra trusts. And then Glimmer punches her. And she's like, hey, don't do that. And then, eventually Glimmer ends up being thrown into She-Ra's arms. And she says, it's your turn now because I'm completely out of magic.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another, even though we've well established the D&D thing here, it's like, okay, my turn is over. It's your turn now.
Yeah.
Scorpia keeps trying to get out this 3-word sentence, Catra trusts me, but she can't because she keeps getting hit with each princess's power in turn as she says the words Catra and trusts.
Catra slam.
Yeah. Okay, seriously? How many of you are there? And then she turns and sees all the glowing princesses plus Bo not glowing.
Who's not glowing this time.
All ready to kick her ass. And she says in a perfectly conversational tone, oh, too many. And then over she goes, over the wall. And she lands in the water conveniently right next to where Kyle, Lonnie, and Rogelio are preparing a boat for escape.
Yep.
But on bump.
And the Horde flag comes down, and
The rebels cheer.
The rebels cheer. They have taken the pass. They have conquered the tower.
The outpost.
The outpost, yeah.
And Glimmer says to She-Ra, good planning session.
Yeah. Oh, and then we have a best friend squad moment. There's all sorts of hugging and loving and squishing and yay.
We're going to win in the end. Hooray.
We're going to win in the end. Hey, see, they won.
They did.
They did, you know.
It's not the end.
It's not the end. They won.
But they won today.
They did win today. And then
The outpost has been reclaimed. Huzzah!
Huzzah! And then Scorpia says, "How all in favor of blaming us on Kyle?"
Yeah. Unanimous.
Unanimous. And Kyle's like, "Oh man."
Yeah. He's pretty accepting.
And that's how we end the episode.
Yep. And then we end the episode with some vintage 1985 She-Ra TV movie Secret of the Sword.
Which is awesome.
For the honor of love. Remember? This is the only thing I really remember.
I love that you remember that. I remember the theme song.
Yeah, I remember that too. But
Yeah,
when they
that's
played
all I
this
remember.
one, I really remembered it. I don't know, I must have seen it a lot.
Yeah,
We
definitely.
have the power, so can you.
Aww. And then, y'all, we learned some stuff today. Jenny?
Yes, we did. Well, we learned that there's a lot of shit you can't control.
Yep.
And that's okay. You just gotta do the best with the things you can control. You gotta roll with it. And trust your friends, baby.
Yep, you gotta trust your friends and just roll with it.
We also learned, some of us, how to play D&D.
Jenny.
I learned how to play D&D.
Jenny learned how to play D&D. I learned that Jenny is really awesome. Awesome to play D&D with. It's really fun.
It was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Yes. And I also learned a lot about some bunch of different fun film and TV and cartoon styles that have all been influences on our fun favorite queer TV show.
Hooray!
Huzzah!
So, and you, dear listeners, learned that's right, our next episode after this will be our She-Ra D&D podcast episode, where you get to hear me, Jenny, producer Ashley, and some really awesome special guests play this campaign.
This actual campaign.
We are going to play the Roll With It campaign. We're going to be the Princess Alliance. We're going to go against the Horde. We're going to try to yeet Kyle off some parapets. We're going to destroy some bots.
We're going to win in the end.
We're going to win in the end.
Yes. I'm going to be Perfuma.
And I am going to be the She-Ra.
Yes. And Ashley is going to be Glimmer, and we have a few other awesome players.
Yeah, it's gonna be really fun. So please, stick around and tune in on that one, because we're really excited for that. Well, folks, if you liked what you heard and you want a +2 charisma bonus on your next roll, you can like and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, or wherever you get your podcast fix. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at HeyAdoraCast. You can email us all of your character sheets at heyadoracast@gmail.com. Hey, Jenny, did you know we had a Patreon?
I heard.
Yeah.
I heard we have some pretty cool stuff over there.
We do.
Some fun perks and bonuses.
Yeah, we have some really cool perks and bonuses if you sign up for our Patreon. We have a private Facebook group and a hoppin' Discord server. It's super fun. I'm giving exclusive playlists. We're getting Patreon-only video hangouts. We watched Roll With It. We're going to watch way more things. We have a freaking blast on our Discord server.
We do.
And we're offering so much more. So you can find the link to our Patreon, as well as the link to this week's super epic playlist, Roll With It, in our show notes or at heyadora.gay.
That's
right.
heyadora.gay.
And remember, queer joy is radical.
And queer love saves the universe.